Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting off a couple Christmas holiday recipes. This is going to be a fudge recipe. This is one of my grandma's friend's recipe and I just altered it slightly to kind of change the texture, but that is where it's coming from. So this is going to be a really just traditional kind of fudge recipe. One kind of thing to note is these recipes are going to be kind of awkward because this is the only one I'm filming in my kitchen in Utah. So this is my kitchen in Utah, and like as you can see, some things are empty because I'm in the process of moving in like less than 3 weeks. So other ones are going to be filmed either in my new house in Seattle or at my parents' house in Eugene. So that's why my kitchens are going to keep changing. So this is going to be the only time you see this kitchen. So let's get started. So to make this recipe, you're going to need a couple ingredients and then a couple containers. So the only containers you're going to need is some type of larger saucepan, and you want a candy thermometer. You can do this without a candy thermometer, but it's going to be easiest if you have it because you can really regulate the temperature. Otherwise, you can basically drop the fudge into cold water and test the hardness there, but this I find is the easiest. So some type of saucepan and a candy thermometer. You're going to need some type of pan to put your fudge in. You can use a pie pan if you don't have like a Pyrex container, or you can go for a Pyrex container. I just use this, it's just an 8x8. And you are going to want to spray this with something. I'm just going to use a little bit of cooking spray. You can use coconut oil, you can use butter, whatever you want. You just want to put something in there because the fudge will stick to the pan. So you're going to need 2 cups of sugar, either 2 ounces of some type of unsweetened baking chocolate, or 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 2 tablespoons butter, a dash of salt, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar, 2 tablespoons light corn syrup, and 2/3 of a cup of milk. And we're just going to combine that all in our pot. And now we're just going to combine all of our ingredients in the pot. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. You just are going to combine it and make everything. So dash of salt, 1/4 teaspoon cream of tartar, your 2 tablespoons of light corn syrup. You definitely don't want to use dark corn syrup for this recipe because that has more of like a molasses-like taste. So don't do that. If you want to make this easier and not have to use a spatula, you can also kind of grease your container beforehand, but I didn't. Your teaspoon of vanilla, your 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 ounces of chocolate sauce, and then the milk. So this is what it looks like right now, not really like fudge. So let's head over to the stove. Alright, so now that we're over at the stove, we're just going to turn on the heat. We want to stay between 5 and 6, so like a medium, but don't go too far over that. And you want to let your kind of mixture start to melt. And I just use a wooden spoon for this, any spoon will do. The key when making fudge or candies in general is you don't want them to become gritty, and that happens when you disturb the crystals that form along the sides from the sugar. So we're not going to put our candy thermometer in until all of this is dissolved, because if you were to disturb this, you're going to knock those crystals back into the fudge. So you want to make sure that you get the ingredients to just start to dissolve first, and be careful to not scrape the edges. So this is just going to be a kind of long process. So this takes quite a bit of time because you got to heat it up, and then you need to get it to 235 degrees. So you're going to basically just keep an eye on your thermometer until it hits that. So 235 is going to make a pretty soft, kind of melt in your mouth fudge. You don't want to do something a lot higher than that because it's just going to be just really hard. Like, it's not like, you don't want to be making chocolate flavored toffee or something. You want fudge. So You heat it up to 235. It will take time. If you don't have a candy thermometer, you can take a glass of cold water and basically drip the mixture into it until it forms like a soft ball when dropped in cold water. That's how you could do that, but I prefer using a thermometer so that I can get the exact temperature. So right now you're just gonna work on dissolving this. And this is when I usually watch like YouTube videos and stuff because this will take a little bit. So when you're looking like this, you're getting pretty close to having it all fully dissolved. So once this finally gets to the point where you can't see those little, so when this finally gets to the point that you can't see all those little butter pieces, then you're gonna be good to put in your thermometer. So as you can see, while I stir, I'm not actually scraping this edge because that's where the sugars kind of build up, and you just don't want to knock that all into your fudge. It'll get a kind of gritty texture, which you just don't really want for this. And this is something why I usually like play music or talk on the phone or watch YouTube videos or something, because it does take a little bit of time to do this step, and you do want to be stirring constantly. So as you can see, we're looking pretty dissolved now. I just kind of have an even chocolate brown color. So at this point, I will put in my candy thermometer. You do want to take care to not have it actually touch the bottom of the pan. So I usually put my spoon just until I can feel it touch the spoon. So I know that it's into the mixture, but it's not actually touching the side of the pan because you won't get a true reading if it's touching the bottom. So now you're basically just gonna keep stirring until it hits 235, and it's just gonna take you probably like 15 to 20 minutes, but in the end it's worth it. So turn on a YouTube video, turn on your favorite songs, bug your mom, I don't know. Do something and keep stirring. So as you can see, I've got some nice big bubbles on. I've just turned off the heat. I'm actually gonna remove my pot from the heat, and we are going to just wait until it cools down to 125. So now we're just going to wait for this to cool down. You want to wait for it to cool down between 175 and 125, and then we're going to beat it. So you'll see that step next. You definitely want to let it cool. If you don't, before you try to beat it, it just doesn't cool off and it never sets up, and it's more like hot fudge that you would put on like cookies or brownies or ice cream or something like that. So make sure that you wait for it to cool down. It takes about probably 5 to 10 minutes depending on, you know, the temperature of your house and everything. Okay, so my fudge has cooled down, so I'm just going to take out the candy thermometer and I'm just going to place it by the sink. You don't want to put your candy thermometer that's still warm right into cold water because then you'll break it. So now you're just going to basically beat the fudge. So as you can see, it's kind of like a syrupy texture right now. And you're just going to basically mix this for about 2 to 3 minutes. You will see as you kind of move it, you can see how it's kind of thick. It'll all of a sudden really start to thicken up. This only takes 2 to 3 minutes, and then you want to get it immediately into your pan that's already been greased. So I can see mine's starting to thicken up, so I'm just going to quickly pour it into my pan. Now you just kind of want to give it a good shake to just kind of get it to smooth out. So now that your fudge is all in its pan, you just want to let that cool for a little bit. You only want to let it set for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to cut it, and then we'll let it completely cool afterwards. So now all you want to do is just take some type of, I usually just use a paring knife, and while it's still soft, you just want to cut into it. If you have one of those like chopper things that you can just press down into it, that's probably the easiest way. I've been making this recipe since I was really young, and that's what my parents have, and that works really well. But as you can see, you can make just pretty easy straight lines. Yeah, just cut these into bite-sized pieces. I make my pieces pretty small purely because you don't want to have like this huge thing of fudge in your mouth, but it's up to you what size you prefer, but keep in mind that it is rather rich, so rather than super big pieces, I feel like smaller ones work better. And then after you have cut all of your fudge, you're just going to leave it for another about 10 to 15 minutes till it fully sets up, and then you can remove it from the pan if you want to do some type of display with it. So as you can see, my fudge is set up. I've just cut it into small little squares. So really tiny bite-sized pieces, what I feel like works out best. Alright, so let's try these. I think this fudge is delicious. It's very chocolatey. It's definitely quite sweet. It's just that kind of melt in your mouth, chocolatey goodness. Definitely quite on the sweet side. I love this. I think this is delicious. I'm definitely going to be making it for Christmas as my mom and my grandma go crazy over it. So I hope you try this out. If you do, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys again soon.